Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Open Door with Vince Robinson. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of speaking with someone who is a broadcast professional. He has his own podcast now. It's called Jazz Flight, and he's interviewing some of the greats in that field of music. His name is Darrell Scott. Welcome to Open Door.
Greetings,
Darrell
Vince. How
Scott.
are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. That's something that we have in common, having worked in radio for a
Yes.
few years.
Few years.
Okay,
Yes.
but it was only like maybe 6 years here in Cleveland for me. But you have a much longer track record.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'd like to get some insight from you on your career in broadcasting. And I'm also aware that you had a career outside of broadcasting as well, so we can talk about that.
This shows how long? Well, first of all, I got started in radio very young. I was 18 years old. And I started at WJMO with Lynn Tolliver, Elgin Reynolds, Eric Stone, Mansfield Mance, Marco Spoon, Lynn Charles, Linda Dukes, Obie Shelton. I remember all of them. And I was the young kid. I was the green one. But it was a great learning experience from all of them. They didn't, whatever question I had, they had answers. There were different things I learned from just observing them and seeing everything that they were doing. Tried to carry it through that. While at JMO, many things happened. I didn't necessarily move into a full-time gig. So Mike Love went over to WABQ, one of the most embarrassing things in my life. I went over to WABQ just to talk to Mike and see what was going on, and he's put me on the air. And it wasn't exactly the smartest thing on my part because got back to the folks at JMO, and then I immediately had to move over to WABQ, which at that point was a jazz station. Had a lot of responsibilities at a very young age of keeping the radio station #1 on the air, keeping the personalities happy, interviewing and getting to know artists. One of my more cherished memories is I'm on the air and it's a studio, the door's here, and when you're on the air, you shut the door. All of a sudden, the door gets thrown open and it's Roy Ayers. And I'm like, what are you doing here? I come over to talk to you. And Roy and I are born a week apart. So we had a great time. Herbie Hancock walked in. I interviewed Denise Williams. So I had a great time and learned everything from being a music director, production director, basically assistant program director, to relate to my podcast. We had 2 weekend guys, Larry Simpson and John Kellogg, who at that time were just weekend guys. I never bothered them because they had a tremendous amount of experience and knew what they were doing. 40 years goes by and I start this podcast and I need guests. Oh, let me call John, see what happens. John graciously, and John will tell you the story that he worked for me, and that's not true. And Larry will tell you the same story. But they were both very gracious in being guests on my show. From ABQ, I went to DMT, and that's where the fame kind of hit. I did a show called Jazz Flight 108, Sunday nights from 7 to midnight, and it took off. In jazz in its heyday, from Sanborn to Grover, and all of those folks being in line with the Front Row Theater, Kane Park, Blossom Music. Did a lot of things there. That ended, went over to WDOK and did a show called New Horizons. While doing all of that, all of those years, I was a teacher, an administrator at the Ohio School of Broadcasting. So there are students out there who are now still broadcasting. Did that, and then I got a little, I don't want to say fed up, but I was kind of through with everything. Because for the most part, it was all part-time stuff. So I could barely pay the cable bill. So then I got a full-time gig and got into IT. Did IT for 20 years, retired in 23. And now I've started this podcast, and it's going pretty well. It's pretty scary.
So that's interesting, Darrell. I did not know about your show on 107.8 or 107.9.
Yes.
What years were those?
81 through 89.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a long drive from Broadview Heights to Newberry. I got snow stories, me and the Bedford Heights Police. But it was fun, and it afforded me. Jeff Kelly was my boss most of the time. Jeff said, "Look, I know you know what you're doing. just do it. I didn't really have any guidelines. I had a milk crate. I put my records in, and I brought them with me, and I would just pick out, I'll say 40 albums. And then it was a question of trying to learn how to mix this genre together, because there are people who think jazz is acoustic, jazz is straight ahead, jazz is Latin, jazz is fusion, whatever it is. And I always tried to somehow mix all of that together. One of my favorite songs still is Ahmad Jamal's Ponciana. Don't get me wrong, it's just tremendous. But then on the other hand, there's Grover Washington Jr. and Mr. Magic. There's so many things. So it was a journey. It was always a learning experience. When I lived in an apartment in Bedford Heights, Sundays were my day to listen to new music. Occasionally people who worked at the station would come by and listen. We kind of have little listening parties. But it has grown on me, because growing up, man, I'm a Temptations, Earth, Wind & Fire fan. But now, as I've gotten older, it's different. That Earth, Wind & Fire and all that stuff is still there. But you can't go wrong with some of the stuff that's out now from a jazz standpoint.
When did you wake up to jazz?
I want to say when I went to ABQ, because at JMO we were still playing R&B. We were playing Tyrone Davis, and that's when Prince came out and Michael Jackson. I got over to ABQ, and it was soft soul and all that jazz. And it was Grover, it was Sanborn, it was Sadao Watanabe, it was, I got a lot of it. It was Wes Montgomery, George Benson. And for me, it's all about a feeling. It's all about my life, even to this day, is pretty frenetic. I need to come off of that and just sit and relax. To divert a bit, I'll tell you this story. So I had a tough day at work, and David Sanborn was playing at the Akron Civic Theater, I believe it was. And I didn't necessarily want to sit in the fourth row. I went and found a seat in the very back of the arena. I mean, literally, the walls behind me. And I sit there, and I just kind of closed my eye, and I just listened. And at this point, David and I are friends. I go backstage, and he's like, dude, where were you? I go, see that seat up there? I was up there. He's like, why? I go, because all I wanted to do was listen. I just needed something to ease my mind. He goes, I wish more people would do that. I'm telling you, this is what I do, and I never lied to those guys. I always told them the truth. Granted, unfortunately, David's passed away, Grover's passed away. There are some great stories, but they were always very genuine in their words. And if you listen to their music, it's the same thing. And you know, my thing is this, I talked to George Benson. George would say, how can you say I'm not playing jazz when I'm influenced by Wes Montgomery, and I'm also influenced by Charlie Christian? Okay, I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You can't. And that's what I kind of base it on.
You know, there are some who see the label jazz in disparaging terms.
Yes.
You know, and then there's all these different genres. You know, as you are aware, we did an interview with Vanessa Rubin. In her perspective, she shares with Wynton Marsalis.
Right.
And Wynton is like, if it ain't swinging,
it ain't music.
It ain't jazz.
Right, right.
Yeah. But then there would be someone like you who would say, well, you know, there's room for everybody.
You've got to be to me, the art of being a disc jockey radio announcer in the jazz world is the ability to play Cristo Redentor and somehow mix it into Earl Klugh and somehow mix it into George Benson. I'll just do that. And that's the art. I remember being at ABQ. The guy's name was Larry Ambler. Larry was parked outside. He comes in, he runs into the radio station and goes, you know, there are longer songs in jazz. You don't have to play a 45-minute song. I go, Larry, I didn't play a 45-minute song. I played like 8 songs. He goes, no, you didn't. I go, yes, I did. And I showed him the list, and he's like, man. So you have to listen to the music. You have to decide how it fits. You have to work your way to this point, and from this point, you need to work your way down to here, to this. I once played, some people might remember this. At the time, I think there were 6 different versions of Birdland. So I started top of the hour and I played Weather Report, which is the original. I played Maynard Ferguson, which is just pure energy. And I played the Manhattan Transfer. And then there was Stanley Turrentine. Then there was Buddy Rich. And this is before the Quincy Jones thing came out. Back to back, no interruptions. I'm sitting in a parking lot one night getting ready to go into a concert, and I hear this. And a guy had taped the show. I'm like, well, I thoroughly appreciate it. But that's the art of this music, is the ability to mix it all together.
Yeah, you're taking me back, Darrell.
Dude,
I'm just remembering being a child, relatively speaking, in
Right.
California,
Right.
and listening to XPRS radio.
Yes.
And the DJ was Wolfman Jack. And I had an AM/FM cassette recorder, and I would record songs, and I would try to do the best I could to keep the announcer
all
out
of
the
it. Oh,
recording.
yeah. I loved you and hated you.
Yeah.
Because we were taught, like, to talk up to the post, to talk up to that first vocal. And then you get outside, and my friends I'm playing basketball with, Darrell, can you stop talking over the music? No, I can't, because that's what my boss wants me to do. So that's what you do. So you're between a rock and a hard place. What can you do?
Yeah. Well, if you got most of the song and you could still
Yes.
groove to it, it's, you know.
There's a song by Barry White, Playing Your Game. It's got a 1:30 intro. Many of us tried.
Tried to talk up to.
Tried to talk for a minute and 30 seconds.
What could you say?
You try to describe the song, the emotion of the song. You talk about anything.
And you had somebody on the other end listening, burning up because you still
Yeah,
talking.
because I'm still talking. Yes, sir. Yep.
So part of your track record, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, because long in the tooth, don't remember everything, but
Right.
you spent some time at 107.3 The Wave.
No, I didn't.
So it was Mark Ribbons.
It was Mark Ribbons. Mark and I are best friends. Mark kind of got his start, and I will say I'm somewhat responsible indirectly. At DMT, there was a gospel show by Pastor Charles Eduardos, and Mark was his second in command, so to speak. So Saturday mornings, they're coming in. So Mark and I got to know each other through that. Have always been friends. When I started my podcast, I called him first because I wanted to make sure it wasn't something that he was going to do. Many of the people that I talk to remember Mark. I pass on their good graces. But sometimes I have to let them know I'm first. I came before Mark. A lot of things we did. I've done a lot of things, and I don't brag about them. I don't talk about them. Met a ton of people. But it's to me, it's more about the music. It's more about, I get greater satisfaction when somebody says, I love the way you mix those two songs together. Or the first group that I don't want to say discovered, at ABQ, I got a record by a group named Gene Dunlap.
Yes.
And Gene was the drummer for Earl Klugh. So it's a Sunday, I'm at home, I'm gonna play this, and I could not stop playing it. It was so good. So that made me pay attention to those artists who don't have that marketing giant behind them. You know, playing Gerald Albright when he first started, playing Michael Franks, playing nobody knows, Beth Nielsen Chapman. I can give you a lot of names that you've never heard of.
Yes.
But if I played the music, you'd go, man, that is really nice. So that was always the thing. It's to get the music out there for people to listen to. I got nothing against rap, country. I got nothing against all of that. I'm just a fan of jazz.
Yes. Part of the dilemma with jazz right now is that you have a shrinking audience, and you also have shrinking support
Yes.
for the genre itself.
Yes.
And in addition to the shrinking audience, you have an audience that's aging. So when you talk about big band music, for instance,
yes.
you know, folks ain't really
No.
into big band like
No,
that.
not at all.
You know.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, from your perspective, what's it like for you to witness this?
It has been, and I will say this, when I started, especially when I got to DMT, It was huge. We had a listening group at the University of Akron, at Cleveland State, at Kent State. On Sunday nights, there'd be a collection of 250 students that would be listening to my show. No pressure on me, but it was like that, and it was huge. There was not, whether it was the Front Row, the Palace, the State, Kane Park, all of these places, shows were sold out. The venues have kind of, they haven't dried up. They're there, they're just not bringing in jazz folks. Jazz doesn't necessarily have the, I'll say, the media push that it used to have. There were jazz songs that were played on R&B and pop stations. You don't have that now. There's not an identity. You can't say Wynton Marsalis was kind of like the identity back in those days, and Sanborn and Grover. I can't tell you the last time I heard a Wynton Marsalis tune. David and Grover have passed away. So who's carrying on that next tier? The other thing that is, the record companies have gone, a lot of artists don't use record companies. They are independents. Independents, it's a lot of money and it's a lot of hustle. You have to, set up studio time. You have to get it pressed. You have to get, are they making CDs anymore? Which was always funny to me. I thought of giving away CDs through my podcast. But wait, are they giving out CDs anymore? So I made a couple of calls to artists I know, and they get like 25. I used to get 25 mailed to me, and I'm just one person. So how do you get it out there? You have to understand the streaming and the downloading of stuff. They don't get paid by the album, which may have 12 singles on it. They get paid by the number of streams. So if they got a hit and you're getting a lot of streams, that's fine. But what about the other 11 songs on the album? Then how do you release it? Do you release an album? Do you release an EP? Do you go, I know somebody that goes January, March, May, then they release all three. So now it's a totally different mindset, and they have to change. They have to adapt.
Well, we've gotten away from the tactile experience of music. You know, back in the day, you would go to the record store.
Yes.
You get the album, you turn it over, you see all the album credits.
Right.
On top of that, you've got this piece of wax.
Right, yes.
That you put a needle on and listen to.
Yes.
And from what I know, that form of music, that analog music, is really better for you. But
yes.
we live in this digital world now,
yes.
and we're doing all this streaming.
Yes.
And the real irony is that artists are getting more exposure but less money.
Yes.
You know, you could get 2 or 3 million
right.
spins on
right.
Spotify,
and you make $1.295
for all of them.
For all of them.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
It's crazy. How have things changed since you were doing what you did as a disc jockey?
Number one, the record company has all but disappeared. Number two, and I can only speak of this market, the media outlet is gone. The venues are not, you used to get 5 or 6, 7 different concerts at Blossom Music Center. And they sell out. And you'd have the small clubs, the Bob Stop, that place on Bellflower. I can't think of the other places in Cleveland Heights, Nighttown. But those have kind of been gobbled up or gone dark. The audience, like you said, is used to streaming. Some people are not, and intelligence is not the right word, but are not aware of streaming. They don't know how to do it. How can I get it in my car? What do I have to do to get it at home? Because most of us still have the RCA turntables and the receivers and everything. So it's a learning curve. Well, who's teaching the learning curve? Nobody.
Yes. And while we're having this conversation, wax is making a resurgence.
Yes, it is.
So
yes.
You have some audio files like Chris Hovan. You know Chris?
Yes.
I've seen Chris's gear on his Facebook post.
Right.
And it's like he's probably picking up that piece of wax with white gloves on it. So
I have in my office, to my left is my R&B and pop stuff, and it's on 5 shows over here. In front of me, let's date myself, Peaches crates. I can't tell you how many, but there's a lot. And on this side of me are shelves of nothing but jazz. And the thing I don't want to do, if I start playing one, I no longer have carpeting in my office because I've picked this one up and then I go over and pick this one up and it all goes on the floor. Then it takes 8 hours to put it all back because I try to keep everything in alphabetical order. You're right.
Yeah, right. Good luck with that.
Yes, you got it. Yes.
You talking to somebody who owns about 1,500 albums.
Don't get me wrong, I got you beat.
Okay. Well, you had much longer tenure in that.
And then
realm.
back then, you got stuff shipped to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every Monday there was a package from Atlantic Records, from CBS Records. And those guys were here in town, whether it was Glenn Wright at CBS, Walter Wright at Polydor, Artie Dunnings, who was doing whatever, Pam Jones, who was doing Warner Bros. And they'd walk up and, here, take these. I do miss those days. I do miss, this is the other thing I talk about on the podcast with the artist is, they now send everything digitally. So you got a song that you want to do. I'm a bass player. You want my bass lines. Hey, Darrell, can you send me, here's the track. This is the bass. Just add your bass and send it back to me. So I'm always going, do you miss that interaction when you can look across the way and see that bass player and get your emotion from that bass player? Yeah, but we just deal with it. And their whole learning curve has changed because now, and when I was interviewing Tom Brown, I'm in his studio. So he had to rearrange his studio so he could do everything from his studio. Why not? And I get it if you got to go rent Vince Robinson studios and you're going to have 8 hours of studio time and you got to bring in this and that and everything. It costs a lot of money. I get that. The setup now where you do everything digitally, where you're emailing stuff back and forth, takes nothing.
Mm-hmm. So you have followed the paradigm shifts in terms of how things are presented. You were working at a radio station, and now you have the luxury of doing your show from your home. I'm assuming.
Yes.
What has that transition been like for you?
Here's one thing that people won't believe. I'm an introvert, truly. So it's a little easier to talk to these folks. The challenge is getting to talk to them. The challenge is coming from a computer world. Everybody's got a firewall. If you can get past the firewall, you can get to anybody. But if you can't get past the firewall, I've done almost 90 interviews. I probably have sent out what we call e-meets to 900 artists. 90 out of 900 ain't a great batting average. But we still hustle. The current standings are we have almost 12,000 views. We have 180 subscribers, and we're not 2 years old yet. It is easier for me from the standpoint I can sit, but there's more things that I have to worry about. I have a sign on my laptop. Are you recording? Because you got to make sure you hit the record button. I have a woman who produces it. We take breaks, so she inputs the music and uploads that, and then we do it to get a better understanding of social media, how to use Facebook, how to use Instagram, to come up with this YouTube channel, to monitor the YouTube channel, to figure out other things we can do. Before it was, Friday and Saturday, I'm picking out music,
right,
and going and driving in Sunday, and then remembering what I got and put it on and play it. That's not true now. I mean, I don't have that music part. And it's coming up with questions. I have not had a person who was a one-word answer person. There are some people, I'm telling you, I don't know if you go through this. You want to tell them to stop talking so you can get in because you're under a time constraint. Doesn't always happen.
Yeah. It's a challenge even when you tell folks we're going to do 13 minutes, we're going to take a slight pause, and then we'll pick back up.
Right, yes.
They're not watching the clock the way you are.
Right.
And so it's difficult, but it's something that I've managed to manage.
And I get that, and I'm still struggling.
Yeah.
But you get better every time you do one. One week I may do 4 interviews. The next week I might do none. But those 4 gives me a month to research and get stuff out. It sometimes come up with questions. I can't remember the person's name. Had nothing on the internet. And I always try to have a base of 15 questions. Doesn't mean that I will use all 15, because sometimes they talk about something which creates a question. But it's like, okay, this is going to be tough to do. I also have, and I tell them all at the beginning of the show, there's a third member of my recording, and that's Brody the Wonder Dog. And he's a 100-pound Alaskan Husky. He will come in the room, walk over here, look up at the screen, decide whether or not he wants to stay. And if he wants to stay, he'll sometimes sit. Other times he'll walk out, he'll lay on my feet. If he's on my feet, I can't move a 100-pound dog with my feet. But there's going to be a promo and everybody will see him.
Okay. Have just a couple minutes left. I want to get to your podcast, how folks can see it. And if you could, just give us some of the notables.
We'll do notables first. Marcus Miller will be on in 2 weeks. Gerald Albright's been on. Reagan Whiteside, Kim Scott, who affectionately is a relative. Randy Scott, who affectionately is a relative. No, they're really not. We just call each other relatives. I've done a lot of people. We're trying to get more. Like I said, Larry Simpson and John Kellogg from Berklee College of Music. If you just Google the Jazz Flight podcast, just those 3 words, several ones will come up. You can send me an email to jazzflight@gmail.com. I can add you to the list. It's on my Facebook page. I post it on Facebook. I post it on Instagram. Each one is Jazz Flight. It's interesting. It's fun. I'm probably working harder than I did when I worked at Swigelot. Yes.
And hopefully at some point, and you described your trajectory in terms of how many subscribers you have. I am at 953 as of today.
Subscribers?
Subscribers.
You the man.
Yeah, so I'm hopeful that at some time I'll get that magic 1,000 number under my belt, and then YouTube can start paying me.
Yes, that would be great. That's the goal. Yeah. Even though we constantly try to get sponsors.
Yes. Well, I just want to wish you success with
Thank
that.
you, sir. Appreciate it. Same to you.
I'm looking forward to that milestone for you.
Okay. All right.
And I know you have quality interviews.
Thank you, sir.
For your program. I'm going to have to tune in for that Marcus Miller episode.
As a matter of fact, I interviewed you.
You sure did. I'm going to need to see that one, too. I think I did watch it, though, and I thank you for that opportunity.
Not a problem, sir.
Yes. So thank you for joining me.
Anytime.
All right. I'm going to be tuning into Jazz Flight Podcast on YouTube very soon, and I encourage you to do the same thing. As always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and make today your best day. Peace.
Welcome to the Jazz Flight Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show.